Most of us didn't grow up in a wealthy home, so we might not see wealth as something we can truly achieve. But what if building wealth for yourself and even your children's children was possible? In today's video, I'm going to share 6 simple steps to help you create lasting wealth. And by the way, if this is your first time here, you're welcome. My name is Leo, and my goal on this channel is to connect with you all, share some of the things that has helped me so far. So the first thing for me is that I believe you need to have faith in God. Your faith in God is what will keep you going. Without believing in the supernatural, without believing in someone that is way beyond our physical realm, it might be difficult for you to think being wealthy is achievable and then leaving lasting wealth for like the future generation is possible. For me, faith has been a significant source, and I use the word source jokingly, but it's been a significant aspect of my life, right? Without faith, they said it is impossible to please God. However, faith is the substance of things hoped for, evidence of things not seen, right? I know majority, and not everybody, I'm not speaking for everybody right now, I know majority haven't really experienced wealth in their lifetime, and they are still in the process of trying to be wealthy. Some people actually think it's a facade, and I do hear people say, oh, as long as you have peace, it is okay. Yet to break it to you that our Heavenly Father wants us to be wealthy, right? I don't think your life would be meaningful if you don't have wealth. I mean, there is more to life, I agree, but in order for you to live and enjoy and have a quality life, you need to prosper. Even the scripture in the Bible, it says, I wish above all things. I think 3 John chapter 2, verse 2, and I wish above all things that ye prosper and be in good health, right? So prosperity is something that God wishes for us, but we have the duty to also ensure that we prosper, right? And I think what faith does for us is it's help us keep our hope on God, keep our belief system hanging on Him, right? And also, I also believe that when you have faith in God and you trust that you can do it, I mean, I think the two goes together. That's why I sort of like put it together, right? By the time you put your trust in God, and then that can translate to you also believing in yourself. One thing that has worked for me is, even as a kid, I've experienced life in some aspects, right, growing up. And as a teenager, there were times that, I was faced with a challenge or a difficult situation, maybe my academics, as an example. And I remember there's one particular scenario, I remember praying to God, and God answered my prayer. Like, God changed the impossible and made it possible. Like, maybe I'll give the details in another video, but what I'm saying is your trust in God is really essential. You need to fully believe that He can do it, right? Once you settle that belief system, it won't be difficult for you to trust in yourself, because what I used to tell myself is, if God can do this thing for me or has done this thing for me, there is practically nothing impossible for God to do. Henceforth, I can put myself out there to be used by God to achieve whatever He wants me to achieve. He has already wished for me to be wealthy. So why would I put myself in a box of not trying to be wealthy, right? And in conclusion for this first point, I would say, once you have your trust in God and you have your faith in God, faith does not end with you just believing. It also emphasizes on you hoping for something, right? So you have to hope for the wealth. They say, the Bible said the love of money is the root of all evil. So I'm not talking about having so much money or being desperate about money. I'm talking about having wealth that you can live for your children's children. The same Bible also said a good father, I believe, leaves inheritance for his children's children. Now, the game has changed. Not a good father leaves inheritance for his children, but it says a good father leaves inheritance for his children's children. And this concept, baffles me a lot, right? When I know that maybe you've probably seen all those interviews of kids walking on the street and then people sort of like interviewing them on Instagram or social media, and they are some certain kids that would say, oh, I'm getting, now I've forgotten the name of what they get. Like they get sort of like weekly or monthly check from their grandparents, and they didn't earn the money. It's just their parents paying them, or their grandparents paying them a salary, essentially. Oh God, I used to know the name of that thing. And it's, initially I didn't understand it until I did a little bit of research, and I found out that there are some certain amount of kids that their parents were so wealthy that, you know, their grandparents rather several businesses that is still functional and operational up until today. And then the profits from the business are being shared amongst all of the grandchildren, right? And they get paycheck month to month, right? And, you know, all these kids are just ordinary people like you and I, you know. That's what I want for my children's children. I want to leave a lasting legacy. I watched a video this week. The person said, you don't die once, you die twice. So there's the first time, which is you dying in your physical body, and the second time is when the last person sort of like mention your name after you die in your physical body, right? So I want to leave a lasting legacy. I want to leave a lasting impact, essentially. Anyways, so to my next point, I would say you should focus on the positive emotion and not the negative one. It's easy for us to focus on the negative emotion the most, and it's due to what is called anxiety. Anxiety is a symptom of fear. There is a feeling, right? So between your feeling, there are two outcomes. So you either have a belief system, which is like your faith, and then an anxiety, which is like below it, or the second aspect of it. So like it's like a second branch. So you either have faith that something is possible, or you have anxiety towards the thing. You know, fear is more or less instant. So for example, you're walking on the road and then all of a sudden you see a large crocodile in your front. You would automatically get scared. That's fear, right? You will be scared for your life. It's an immediate and intense emotion, right? But anxiety is like a subset of fear. You see what I mean? So most times our emotions contribute or controls the results we get, the energy to take action. What I've discovered is that when I'm focused on the positive aspect of a particular project or a particular activity, I'm more prone to do well in doing the activity or performing the activity, or I'm more prone to take the action. As soon as I start focusing on the fear, I get lazy automatically. And I don't know if you guys have felt like this before. In fact, if you have a story, you can probably just share it in the comments below. But what I'm saying is, whenever I have an idea in my head and I'm excited about it because I'm focused on the positive part of the idea, as soon as the negative part kicks in, I'm always reluctant to take the action, right? And to me, it's sad. It's sad because this sort of like limited me for a long time. It was until recently that I discovered that when you focus on the negative part of anything, you are less likely to take action or go through with it. So in building generational wealth, in building wealth for yourself and your children's children, you need to hack your emotional construct or your emotional dealings. Essentially, you need to make sure that every time you're about to make a decision or every time you have a project that lies ahead of you, you need to ensure that you are always focusing on the positive side rather than the negative side. If your emotions are always geared towards the negative aspect of everything, you wouldn't achieve anything, right? I don't know if you guys have ever tried taking an ice bath before. There is a connection between what we feel on our physical skin and our brain, right? Is our brain neurons, or I guess it's neurons that send signals of pain or pleasure, right? So if you pinch yourself, that feeling you're feeling, it's your brain that is actually making you have that feeling, right? So you need to ensure that your mind and your thought process focus on the positive aspect, right, of wealth building and not the negative ones. Several times when I have like certain projects to do, and it's something that requires me to speak publicly, like let me just give you an example of public speaking. I remember a time during my time at the business school, right? I was supposed to do like a presentation, and I was prepared, right? I was ready for the presentation. I had all my points itemized, and I was going to stand in front of my classmates, and the people in the room were like maybe, let's say, between 10 and 12. And the funny thing is, immediately I started, I froze up. Like literally, I was just like this. And the reason being that I was anxious and I focused on the negative emotion. I remember just like few seconds to me speaking, I had the thought in my head, what if I flop? What if I flop? What if I flop? What if I mess up? Or everybody's going to laugh at me. I eventually messed up. I flopped, and it was okay. Everybody embraced me, right? I froze. I turned back and backed everybody, and in my head, thinking about it now, it's funny because I don't know why I did that, to be very honest, but I can never forget that day in my life. I eventually did the conclusion of the project and then spoke, because I started focusing on the positive parts, but I couldn't understand, or I didn't understand how my emotion contributed to me responding that way, right? Me feeling that instance, of me presenting, right? So if you have control over your emotion and your thought process, it's easy for you. If you've ever, so like I was trying to describe before, if you've ever taken an ice bath before, the first couple of minutes, maybe the first 2 minutes, you would want to jump out. But I can bet it with you, if you persevere and hold on for 3 minutes, 4 minutes longer, your body would get used to it. I used to also swim, and I used to swim at the gym, so there's like a hot spa close to the pool, right? The pool's temperature is mildly okay. However, you will feel the difference when you go into the hot spa and then you try to enter the pool after leaving the spa. It's a different ball game. There will be like a rush of emotion, right? There's this rush of cold that will go through your whole body, right? And it's the same feeling with having an ice bath, right? Your brain sends signal and tells you that you're crazy. You need to come out. This is too cold for you. You will die. That's your brain talking, right? But if you can overcome that thought process in your brain, you can literally overcome the challenge. And anytime I'm scared to do something, I used to go and do that test for myself. I would probably just do like an ice bath or put my hand in like a cold water and see how long I would last. That would just so that I can tell myself and rewire my brain to know that this emotion is only temporary, it's not permanent, essentially. So focus on the positive aspect, focus on the positive emotion, ditch the negative emotions. Anything that makes you anxious, just know it's your brain that is making you anxious. It's not what is going to happen. The more you focus on the positive part of your emotion, the easier it is for you to generate the wealth that you're looking to generate. The easier it is for you to take action. The third thing is to empower yourself by having a skill, right? By building your skills. And for this one, I also think it's very important. You need to have a skill to be wealthy. Every wealthy person that I've come across, they have one skill or the other. And this skill transcends what you learn in your educational system, whether it's in your bachelor's degree or your master's degree. You need to have a skill. I'm grateful to God because for me, I actively, started working on developing a skill in my bachelor's degree. And I think it was in my second or third year. And if you've watched my previous videos, you would see that I sort of like briefly described what I did, in those periods, right? However, I'm grateful to God that I was able to pick up this skill, because this sort of like skill that I picked up during my bachelor's degree has really empowered me a lot. In fact, I have gotten some jobs because of this skill, right? Some jobs that I wouldn't normally qualify for. However, once I go to the interview and I share or I speak to the interviewer that I have X and Y, type of skill, they are more likely to hire me than hire every other person I'm competing with on the team. So basically, your skill will speak for you. You know, the Bible also says, "Say thou a man diligent in his business, he shall stand before kings and not mere men." So that scripture sort of like guided me through life. It sort of like informed my decision to skill building. You know, I developed two major skills in my uni days. I developed the skill of web design and development, and I developed the skill of graphic design. Right? There are other skills that I've picked up after then, right? Which, you know, for example, photography and videography. And both photography and videography are skills that I picked up passively, not even actively, right? It was just an interest as I was journeying through life. And I can tell you for sure today that those four skills have been essential in my business building and has helped me generate enough funds that I've used for several projects, you know, so far in my lifetime, right? So if you want to build or have lasting wealth, my advice and admonition to you is to build a skill. You know, it doesn't have to be web design. It doesn't have to. It can just be anything. One of the richest people in the world right now is a furniture person, is a carpenter, right? That's the skill, right? You can literally develop any skill and monetize it. The essence of skill building cannot be overemphasized if you want to build wealth. I've always also been an entrepreneur, but even whilst working in my 9 to 5 jobs, always doing one project or the other outside of my 9 to 5, right? That is bringing me extra income on a monthly, sometimes weekly basis. Right now, I have some of those jobs now on like automation. In fact, sometimes I even turn some jobs down, right? So in order for you to build lasting wealth, you need to build a skill, right? Because your skill will put you in front of kings and not mere men. Your skill will make you stand out. Even if you are just an artist and you are really good and you are diligent and you practice, your skill will put you in front of great people. And how do you build your skill, you might ask me? I think the best way is to discover your interest, discover what you like, and invest time in learning it. You see, investing your time in learning a skill it's very difficult. It's very, very difficult because you will see your mates watching movies, playing video games, doing things that sounds fun. However, because you have a goal, that's why it's good to set like 10, 15 years goals, right? If you have a goal, you have to lock in and motivate yourself, be yourself motivator to learn all of this skill, right? It's essential for you because, like I said before, it will put you before kings and not mere men. The next thing you need to do is to build your influence. And this is important because you need influence to manage people and not manipulate, sort of like control how your relationship is with people, right? And you need influence also because, and I say this carefully, because of when you would need them to do some certain things for you, right? There are some rooms that you wouldn't necessarily be able to enter. It's your influence that will speak for you in that room, right? And I can give you an example. I've had, like, because I have a skill, right? I can't reach everybody, but most of the jobs that I've done based on the influence I've built on my social media or within my friends, right? I remember one of the first sort of like job that I got. In fact, I dictated the terms of the job because of my skill, right? But one of the jobs that I got after leaving my bachelor, in university, was someone that knew me in uni that just recommended me to someone I've never met in my life. You know, I just, zero interview, I just got a phone call and the person was like, "Hey, can you come down here tomorrow? My boss wants to speak to you." If you can build your influence, you can set yourself off for life. And you might ask me, how do I build my influence? Well, I would say have a good character, be nice to people, treat people well, and then have meaningful conversation with people, right? The way I like to build my influence is I make friends with people that are better than me, older than me, and wiser than me. And that way, I tap from their knowledge. And then once I've gained the whatever knowledge I'm trying to gain from them, I also use that knowledge to impact every other person around me, right? Whether you are my age mate or you're younger than me, I tend to use the knowledge I've gained from people that are much wiser than me, irrespective of age, and share it around. And then I sort of like use that to grow my influence. Another good way to grow your influence is to have a platform. Put yourself out there, like put yourself on social media, talk about whatever interests you, create videos, put out your creativity. There will be 1, 2, 3, 10 people that would connect with you, and that way you have an influence over them. If you look at the influencer marketing today, it wasn't like that 6, 7 years ago. But right now, all the big organizations have realized that in order for their product to sell, they need people with influence, right? So it's essential for you to also build your influence as well. I know, in fact, Mark Zuckerberg of Facebook is very influential, right? However, he still does things that would generate more influence, more friends for him on his social media platform. I can mention like 3 other people. Elon Musk, same thing. He has a character online. He puts out his personality. There's energy in what he does. All these things that they are doing is not that they just want to be social and just want to use the social media app for fun, or they are just trying to be social on social media. What I see them do is they are intentionally building their influence across board. They understand the impact of their influence, right? Several times you've seen Mark Zuckerberg say something about a coin or about something in the stock exchange market, and that triggers an emotion in the stock market industry. People start making a lot of money because of one thing that is said, right? So when you build your influence, you have like a control mechanism of how you can build your narrative or develop your narrative, and then that can help you generate funds or wealth for yourself and your children's children. And this building your influence leads me to the next point, which is you have to learn how to sell. Once you have an influence, you have to learn how to sell. And I'm one person that up until I would say about a year ago, I never liked the idea of selling. And it's because of the fact that I feel like selling is not normal, right? I feel like, I do not have to convince someone to buy a product if it's good. That, if I want to eat bread, for example, I know what type of bread to buy at the supermarket, right? So if you really want to use my service or use my product, I shouldn't convince you to use it. You should see the benefit and then use it. However, I've recently understood or learned that the mechanism of selling that we all know is not the right way to sell. People are intelligent enough, like I said, people are intelligent enough to know what is good for them or not good for them. However, you should be able to tell them about your product. And one of the best way to sell, right? One of the best way to sell that I've learned recently is to make sure that whenever you're selling, you are gearing the emotion of your customer towards the positive side. God, I can't speak. You have to gear the emotions of your audience towards the positive side of your product or service. If you are pulling their attention towards the negative, they are most likely not going to buy your product or service. So you need to develop your selling skill. I myself, I'm still trying to develop that, right? I've not figured it out, extremely yet. I'm doing my research, I'm reading books, and I'm trying my best to ensure that I know how to sell, because if I don't sell, it will be difficult for me to generate funds. No matter what you do in life, you either fall into these two categories. You are either selling or being sold, and the honest truth is that in order for you to build wealth, you have to be on the selling side. If you are being sold to at all times, you will be poor. You will be so poor, because all the money you get from your 9 to 5, you would use it in buying other people's products, right? But if you learn how to sell and you fall on the selling part, you are more likely to generate lasting wealth. And the final thing, just before I end this video, is that you need to learn how to invest, right? So investment across board. invest in your time, invest your time in developing a skill, invest your time in assets. So is it called a non-depreciating asset, right? Instead of spending your money on cars or luxury items, think about buying properties, think about buying stocks, think about investing in I wouldn't say Bitcoin because I don't know, it really depends on your risk level. However, I would say one thing I know for sure is investing in real estate is not a bad idea. But however, I would advise that you do your research extremely before you invest or put your money in real estate. Let me just say I've made a lot of money in real estate, and I entered real estate investment about, I would say, 3 to 4 years ago, I believe, or 5 years ago now. Yeah, I think 5 years ago now. And I've seen extreme changes, like extreme growth and a lot of money from real estate investment. So if you want to build wealth, I would say you need to invest your money. Your money should either be working for you or be generating more funds for you. You can't have a lot of money right now and just put it in the bank, right? The bank is going to leverage your money and be using your money to build wealth for another man, so to speak. Rather, what I would advise you is to learn to invest your money. Put it in bonds, put it in buy gold, right? Just learn how to invest. Learn how to invest and then invest strategically. Because some investments can cause you to lose money, right? That's why I'm saying you need to invest strategically. So if it's key for you to learn how to invest, and I think if you read The Wedding Man in Babylon, he also sort of like buttress this investment point, right? So learn to buy assets and not depreciating items like cars and all. If you've invested, if you see like return from your investment, please by all means buy a depreciating asset. You can buy a car and enjoy yourself, right? But before you buy that depreciating asset, before you buy that luxury item, make sure that you've invested your money wisely.